100% front-loaded garages.
At this point, we haven't.
Well,
That's what's requested, but we haven't waved our magic wand at all.
if we, I mean, I'd like to ask someone if we said no on the front-loaded garages, or to a much more substantial percentage not front-loaded, are the lots wide enough to do some sort of alternative garage door facing?
I would say that most of them are, but not all of them. And we're working on some product development based on some comments. We worked with planning staff end of last week after we received the comments. So we're working with our architects to develop what that product exactly could be.
Okay. Then I'd like to suggest we only allow up to 25% front-loaded garages.
Is that in form of motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Motion by Mr. Ames.
Second.
And second by Dr. Lee to allow a maximum of 25% front-load garage for the entire development.
Right.
Mr. Rogers, you have clarification?
Okay, is that in lieu of the 40%, or the 40 and the 60? So when you say front-loaded, you're considering the 10-foot recessed.
Absolutely,
To
they're
be
front-loaded,
front-loaded,
they're
right.
just recessed, front-loaded, yes.
If I see a garage door from the street, that's a front-loaded, no matter which depth it is.
5 or 10.
Is that what you're implying?
So 25%.
So those percentages that we have here could apply to the percentage that we are allowing of the front-loaded.
Okay. So the other 75% would have to be side-loaded or courtyard entry.
Correct.
Does everybody understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Okay, that's .6, our resolution of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. .9 is the concern about shifting the lots eastward to allow more of a consistent look in relation to the adjoining, is that correct? Is that
It
correctly
wouldn't
stated?
necessarily be, shifting them eastward would not be the only solution. As I mentioned, the other solution would be to lose a couple of lots.
Would it be easier for us to resolve than if we want a certain distance from the right-of-way? And done in green space or whatever, and that way they can figure out how to lay this thing out.
Right.
What is your suggestion on that?
What is that buffer width now? See if I can-
On Anderson, is there a buffer?
50 feet or so?
Is that the setback or is that the buffer?
No, that's the buffer.
Bear with me.
40, it might be 40, 45, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm thinking we probably need to double that.
What is the other, like Guthrie and Fountain Brook?
Fountain Brook is about, I'm thinking about 200 feet. But they do have, well, they've got the same drainage going down in front of Fountain Brook that you have going in front of Norman Creek. I think Guthrie is, those lots are larger and wider. I'm thinking that buffer is about what they're showing, but with larger lots. So it's quite a bit of difference between what Guthrie shows, which is on the south side, and what Norman Creek has on the north side.
Thoughts, comments from the commission? Ms. Ashley?
Without losing lots, could you make 62, 61, 60, and 59 a little bit smaller? You don't have that right off the top of your head? And squeeze about another 25 feet or so on those front two lots?
Could you repeat those numbers for me?
The big ones in the back, 62, 61, 60, and 59. Now, I know you have to have enough room for the fire truck to turn around. But could we shave those a little and just add, I don't want you to lose lots. I understand the importance of that, but could we,
So you're referring to the lots in the cul-de-sac?
yes.
Would that give you, are you going for additional
Just to scooch them back.
doubling of it?
Yeah, just to move
Yeah.
them back. And
Without designing the project, what you're wanting is more separation from the road, correct?
that's correct. That's the
Basically
goal.
double what you're wanting to get to.
Well,
If it's 40, you want 80, if it's,
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it, and he said 45 to 50, and then we said Fountain Brook was 200. So if we try to meet somewhere in the middle, if we can just move it back a little bit and take a little off the back so they don't lose lots. That's what I was,
yeah.
I know what a lot's worth. I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to punish them, but I mean, we've got to find a balance here in all of this.
Yeah, if-
There's a proposed amenity area that we could
No,
take
just
a
like
little
on-
out.
On Fountain Brook, the reason there, the green space up there is so much wider is the stream actually veers that to the northeast. So unless they were going to relocate the channel, they had to do that. In this area where we are, the channel is actually right up next to the road. That's where it is.
You understand I'm trying to help you here, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you got things
Yeah,
working
I-
against each other here.
And I think if I'm looking at this right, you're talking about the lots at the end of the cul-de-sac, which are on the east side of what would be the extension of Macy Drive. Is that correct?
Yes, if you could just give us a little bit more room on the front of the subdivision and take up a little bit of the larger lots, then we all get what we want. We get the separation we want on the front, and you maintain your lots.
I think,
Okay, well, go
I think
for
what
it.
happens is if we push those first block of lots, there's the stream that comes through there. And so if we push these lots to the east, say an additional 50 feet, we'll lop off those two lots. And I don't know that there's enough depth in those lots in that cul-de-sac to add in the additional.
Well, the next
Additional
option
two.
is to lose them, so I'm
I
trying to
understand.
help you out here.
I understand you're trying to help, and I'm
Okay.
I'm just thinking it
Ms.
through.
Bryant?
you were in the queue, did you drop out?
I dropped out. I guess I'm kind of inclined to do, I think for me, I'm kind of inclined to do a little bit more of what Chairman Freudenthal just kind of recommended, was just kind of leave the engineering and design to you guys, but at least let you know what our concerns are and what we want. The current buffer that you're showing is not adequate. So instead of us designing what we are, well, at least for me, I'm not agreed to design for you. I at least would like to see double what you show here,
Okay.
is my thoughts. And I haven't tested will of the commission to see if double is good enough for them yet.
So do you have a motion? to
Why
double
not?
the-
I move that we require double what is offered here, in terms of, in versus the offset or losing of lots, and let the design and, engineering be left up to the developer, but at least provide double of what is shown currently on your plan.
In summation, I have a motion to expand the green space or clear space on the east, on the west border by twice of what it is currently shown. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Millsap's discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, any abstained? So if it's 45, it's 90. If it's 50, it's 100. It's double what we have right now. Now we're back to
The main motion is.
the main motion, the question of drainage, and Mr. O'Brien and everybody else. There are going to be a lot of bites at this apple. What we're trying to do now is probably get it to the point where it goes to the board and going to go back through it. The way Mr. Rogers explained the process, I counted 7 times. So in addition to satisfying TDEC and its concerns. So we will hear from you a lot on that one. Further discussion? Do you have a motion?
Before
Yes.
we go too much farther, I respect the board's consideration for the neighbors and their concern over the home types and the front-facing garages. This may seem a little awkward, but I'd like to request that we defer. I need to get back with our architecture group to make sure that we can adequately meet the needs of the community. And I don't want to say we're going to do it and then really not be able to do it. So I
Mr.
respectfully
Millsap, do I have a
request that
motion
we
to
defer.
defer for one meeting?
So moved, Chair.
Mr. Ames, do I have a second?
Yes, I'd like to
Turn your-
suggest an addition to that.
We have a motion, a second to defer. Comment on the discussion, Mr. Ames.
I'd like to suggest that the pictures that came around of the potential homes, we've discussed using decorative lighting for sort of making up for having the front loaded garages.
Yes.
None of those pictures had, at least what I believe to be decorative lighting.
No, they do not have
And
it
I'm
on
not
there.
sure what the heck that means, frankly. I really don't, unless it's like a spotlight in my eyes as I drive by, so I can't see that there's a garage. I'd like to suggest that we have updated pictures,
Okay.
renderings of the kind of homes that you choose to build at that deferred meeting as well.
So you understand that?
Except
All
for-
those in favor of the motion to defer, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstention, you are deferred. You have one nay. Ms. Ashley.
Thank you
All
for your
right.
time.
Yes, sir, thank you. We have no sketch plats, no preliminary plats, no rezoning request. Staff approved projects. We had a Carmen's Day Spa, Ashcrest Multifamily, Lot 49 revision. Center Point Park, Section 2 resub, Crystal Exterior Upgrade Site Plan. That's just for our information. Next, we have Resolution 2016-01, resolution recommending acceptance of dedicated completed streets to Glenbrook North, Phase 2, Section 7, Lot 18. Is this, Mr. Boyd, this is you? Everything in good shape? Do you have a motion? Motion by Ashley, second by Brian McCormick to approve Resolution 2016-01. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstention, it is approved. Resolution 2016-02, accepting dedicated completed streets and meadows of Indian Lake Phase 2. Same. Motion by Ashley, second by Brian McCormick. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstention, that is approved. Resolution 2016-03, dedication of completed streets Windstar Bay Phase 5A. Is everything good? Motion by Ames, second by Brian McCormick. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstention, that is approved. Next, we have a request for closure of street right-of-way adjacent to Lake Harbor subdivision and Margaret and Kozloff property. Mr. Rogers.
Okay, you have the email from Danny Hale, Halo Builders, who has acquired Section 3 and actually Section 4 as well, the final two sections of Lake Harbor. This request is to abandon what is shown on all of the tax maps and other plats as a dedicated right-of-way, but not a public street. You know, as has been said earlier, this is all considered to be private. I don't think we take issue with that, but it is existing right-of-way that is owned by the city of Hendersonville, according to the city attorney. So the proposal is to officially and legally abandon that right-of-way, and then to I believe what would happen is to then deed that property to the adjoining property owners. So the property would actually be deeded to Ms. Kozloff on the, where her property borders it, and would be deeded to Lake Harbor where it borders Lake Harbor. The road, as you can see on that map that's attached, as it comes off of Lake Harbor Drive, it curves over into the Kozloff property, where it is completely within the Kozloff property on either side. Then it curves back around to Lake Harbor subdivision. You can see there's a little stub street that was previous, that there was a right-of-way from there on up to Lake Harbor. It was abandoned some years later. I mean, some years ago, I should say, some years ago. And then it kind of hugs from that point southward towards the lake, it hugs the property line between Kozloff and Lake Harbor. So at that point, half of that, and I don't know how wide this is, I believe it says it's 40 feet of right-of-way, so 20 feet would be added to Lake Harbor subdivision. The other 20 feet would be deeded to Ms. Kozloff. North of there, all 40 feet would be deeded to Ms. Kozloff. That's the way it typically works, as I understand it, as per state law. If you recommend approval of this closure, then it would be presented to the Public Works Committee, the General Committee, and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and then there would be another public hearing But I think it's important to know what the position of the owners would be. I'm not sure what action the board could take if both owners do not agree to the closure. That would be a matter for the city attorney to resolve. So I would recommend that you go ahead and recommend abandonment and forward this on to the Public Works Committee, General Committee, and Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Final decision on all this rests with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and it's like guidance to the city attorney. All we're doing is moving along to that step so that resolution can be made.
Correct.
We don't determine any of this, we just
Right.
move it along. Comments, questions, or motions?
Motion to abandon and.
Recommend abandonment.
Abandonment and or to the bonus.
Motion to recommend closure of the street right away. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Millsaps. All those in favor say aye.
I have a question.
All those
Jim,
opposed? Vote's been taken, but go ahead.
You didn't give an opportunity for questions, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mrs. Kozlov's son-in-law, I don't remember the name now,
Matako.
indicated, I still can't say it, had indicated something about campers not having access. What is that about, and are we to be concerned?
I don't know if we can resolve it. That's why we need to get it in the hands of the city attorney.
All right, then, I
This is
take back my comment.
The Kozlovs could, of course, continue to allow, as they have in the past, could continue to allow the campers access to those campsites
Okay.
across their property.
I've withdrawn my question.
All those in favor recommending approval of closure of the right-of-way say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any abstentions, that moves forward. Next, we have amending zoning ordinance regarding vacation rentals. If it's without objection, can we take a 5-minute break, please? Thank you.
I so move.
Afraid of your glasses.
Well, nobody wants to stay and talk about vacation rentals. I'm disappointed.
Okay.
What a way to clear the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Note yourself when you want the room to clear.
Next on the agenda is the consideration of amending the zoning ordinance regarding vacation rental. You have an email or a memorandum from Mr. Rogers for August 24th concerning the matter. It strikes the chair that what we need to do is probably have discussion 1, then discussion 2, then discussion 3. Discussion 1 being, do we want to allow vacation rentals? And also the issue of no longer allow vacation rentals as a conditional use in residential zone. Then also during our discussions, of which have been several and good, do we want to consider allowing these uses in specific areas, i.e. general commercial, old town commercial, their commercial operations? Or do we want to continue with vacation rental but amend the statute to allow them as an accessory use? I don't think anybody has any objection to revising the current process of going through the BZA. Those poor members have suffered enough. Mr. Campbell would agree to that. So, Mr. Rogers, I'll throw it up off to you, or do we just want to have discussion? But it strikes me that we probably ought to do some order of this thing.
Yeah, what if we go down this 1, 2, 3, 4 in the
With the exception of 1 and 1B, which is the last paragraph regarding being a permitted use in Old Town Commercial and General Commercial. That wasn't listed in 1, 2, 3, and 4, I don't believe.
That's true.
So, the first item is no longer allow vacation rentals as a conditional use in residential areas. Is that, do we need to take action as recommendation?
No.
How do we need to
No, I
do?
think
Or
we
get a
just-
consensus of the board that
Yeah.
that's,
I think we go down through these and kind of see what we agreed to, and then we can couch a motion based on each matter that we've agreed to.
I move we recommend removal of that.
motion by Ames, to remove the
Conditional.
conditional use in residential areas from the current zoning ordinance. Just that component.
Yes, if we're taking it a bite at a time.
Taking it a bite at a time, then we'll come back for a main motion for all of it.
So he's saying yes then to item number 1. Yes.
It's second by Lee. Any further discussion on that?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant McCormick?
Have we had some legal weigh in on that particular item?
The city attorney's reviewed this and says he's okay with it. We'll wait and see how it ends up, and then I guess he'll probably take a more detailed look before he advises the board, but he seems to be okay with this. I think we're good with it.
I'm slightly concerned, but I'll defer to the city attorney.
Further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Just today on the news was 99.7. I think Dr. Lee said he saw it on Channel 4 and 5. There are a lot of legal issues going on, mainly in Nashville. And, it was just rampant there. And it was, kind of unprecedented, and now they're trying to start reeling it in. So I think, and I'll defer to the attorney, there isn't a lot of case law on this, and even Mr. Rogers has said that. So I think we can put these processes in place, but I think it's going to have to be tested out through the courts. But we can do whatever we want to do on our level here in Hendersonville. And the worst thing I hear is people partying all night, not using proper adult judgment and things like that in residential neighborhoods. And I know if there was one next to me, I don't think I would appreciate it. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Further discussion on the motion to no longer allow vacation rental as a conditional use in residential areas. That's all we're doing, is saying how we currently do it is not working. Don't want to do that anymore. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstention? Next, for lack of a better term, we need to decide then whether we want to recommend that they either be allowed in commercial zones, such as Old Town Commercial and General Commercial, or allow them in other zones as well. Would that be a fair statement, Mr. Rogers?
Sure.
So that issue we can have discussion on as well. Mr. Ames, your light is on. Do you wish to?
That was an accident, I'm sure.
Do you have comment on this one, or?
Probably.
Okay. With respect to,
With respect to putting in other zones, it is a commercial business when you buy a building or build a building for the purpose of making profit, and when you don't live in it yourself. Those kinds, that's a legitimate business, but I think they should be in commercial areas only, and I think we've already talked about it. I think Mr. Rogers has said OTC and general commercial, and I think we should allow them in that area and have rules, just like we might have for other businesses in those zones, for how those are to operate.
any further discussion? Mr.
Just one quick question. I know a lot of people, and I myself own several rental properties. Is this going to preclude people from renting residential houses for, does it need to be a 6-month lease or a 1-year lease?
We haven't got to that point yet, but the
Okay.
concept and definition we've been working on is the issue of vacation rental, which is a short-term rental, 1 week.
So we would need to decide on the time frame: 6, 10, 15, 21, or 30 days. Is that correct?
If we want to allow vacation rentals in residential zones. Vacation rental is a different term than rental.
Gotcha. And I was not here for that meeting, so I
Right.
apologize. Okay, thank you.
So with respect to allowing vacation rentals within general commercial and Old Town Commercial, is there a motion to recommend that?
I so move.
I second.
Motion by Ames, second by Jenkins, to recommend the allowance of vacation rental in Old Town Commercial and General Commercial with the provision they are commercial. They have to follow all the rules and regulations of that zone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
2 nays, Ashley and Brian McCormick.
Now, a related issue there would be under what terms would they be allowed as a permitted use in OTC and general commercial? At first, I had suggested a limit of 12 guests, but as you can see there in that, on the second page of the report, I'm backing off of that and saying that would prevent the use of a vacation rental in these commercial zones for wedding reception and other special events, even though we actually allow that as a permitted use. For example, meeting/event centers are permitted use in both OTC and GC. A separate permit's required, so that'd be like a second use, and they would have to meet the parking requirements. So, but for a vacation rental alone, it would be one parking space per 500 square feet.
That is your recommendation?
That's my recommendation, to remove the 12 guest limit in OTC and GC.
Mr. Ames?
We're looking at this now for these two areas to be similar, for instance, to if someone was allowed to have a restaurant. And there's certain rules when you have a restaurant, certain parking rules and all this and that, okay?
Right.
And so that's what we're talking about now, is what specificity we want to add to anything, to anybody who would rent short-term rental in those two zones we just talked about.
Correct.
Okay.
Also
Parking
keep-
and there, I mean, there's a whole host of things I guess we could.
Right, it's primarily parking, and right now, we would need to establish that parking requirement for a vacation rental in a commercial zone. That would be the 1 per 500. Now, there's other, since these are commercial zones, there are other existing rules that apply. For example, all existing applicable hotel motel taxes would be due, business license requirements would apply, as well as any building code requirements that might apply. So it'd be
Yep.
just like any other business.
Yep. So all the general rules for commercial would apply, and now we're looking at anything specific to this,
Right, which is parking.
particularly short-term.
Which is just parking. So again, I would recommend that you drop the 12 limit restriction and set parking at 1 per
I
500.
think he means here.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of planning?
So moved.
Motion by
Well-
Millsaps, second by, let me get
I
a second.
had I had a question.
I'm going to get to you as soon as I
I'll
get a
second it.
second.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ames, now Dr. Lee.
Okay. To me, the 12 guest limit assumes 12 guests overnight. And I don't think we need to think about a wedding reception and 12 guests overnight. To me, those are two separate issues. You could have a wedding reception and have, as a commercial event venue, as there are in Nashville and other areas, and there are limits, but it's a much higher limit. To me, we need to still think about, even in our Old Town Center, how many guests do you want in a facility overnight? And when does it then not become a vacation rental and it become a hotel, motel, or other sort of operation? Am I making any sense, or am I confused?
Well, I think the question is there any need to, since this is a commercial zone, and if they get a permit for a meeting/event center, is there any reason to prevent them from having more than 12?
Well, okay.
Can a time limit be imposed on that?
Yeah.
Settle midnight?
But of course, at hotels, motels, you don't
That's true.
limit. At meeting and event centers, you don't limit the hours. You've got noise ordinances that apply, rules, I guess, on when you can sell beer and alcohol. So all that would still apply.
So really then what we're saying is that this is really not a vacation rental. It is a commercial venue, period, in the Old Town.
You might
That's
call
what
it
this will be.
yeah, you might refer to it as a commercial vacation rental.
Okay, I
In
got you.
zones that already have commercial qualified.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to accept the recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That one's accepted. Now, we get into whether or not to allow vacation rental as an accessory use in residential zones. Correct, Mr. Rogers?
Correct.
For a number of days.
And then if we do, the number of days, the amount of square footage, the amount of parking all comes into play. It seems to me that the commission needs to express its desire of whether or not to allow those in residential zones. And if we do, we go on to the next step. Dr. Lee?
Yeah, I would highly suggest that we not allow commercial or vacation rentals in residential zones. Many of our residential areas already have covenants that clearly state that it is for residential only. This community has developed well around the concept of strong residential neighborhoods, period. I understand Brentwood and some other areas have taken a strong position on this because of the nature of the community that they have as well. And as long as we're providing a venue and an area for commercial vacation rentals, that an accessory use in a residential zone is not necessary, and sends the right message, I think, to our citizens and to our community that we are going to protect the interest of this residential community.
Mr. Rogers? Oh, okay. I thought-
No comment.
Is that in the form of a motion?
I so move.
Motion by Lee, second by Millsaps to, I guess, recommend not allowing vacation rentals in any residential zone. Is that correct?
That seems to be the motion, yes.
Comments on the motion, Mr. Ames?
Yeah, I personally would be very comfortable with that motion, but I think in looking at it, I believe we have over 40 facilities going on right now. And somewhere along the line, we or our attorney or somebody's going to have to decide what do we do about grandfathering or whatever those that are already existing. How we make those, how we take care of those. Because those people are going to, in fact, indicate that they've been allowed to get away with it.
They never had it, Bernie.
Well, it's still something we'll have to deal with, and it'll be a mighty blowback there will be a lot of noise about that. But my point was that there are going to be, it's very easy to say no and to agree with your motion. I'm just wondering if there aren't many people who rent their house. They live in their house, and they rent their house out for 3 days, 4 days, a week, and maybe they do that once or twice a year. And are we going to suggest that people can't do that in their own homes? I mean, that's what your motion is, right?
As I understand, that's what the motion and second is at the present time.
Yeah. Well, I just think we got to think about not just ourselves, but how that might affect the other people in the town as well.
Mr. Jenkins?
Just to follow up on what Mr. Ames said, I mean, I received a phone call today of a citizen resident that does just exactly that. They simply have a kind of a apartment. They're on property the whole time. They don't leave the property, and they just rent a room out a couple weekends a month. So, you know, the question here is, to go to your point, is that, are we saying in this motion that that would be non-permissible?
Not necessarily. That, and Mr. Rogers, I'll ask you, that almost becomes a different term within the zoning ordinance, does it not?
Yes. If you rent out a room, if you own a home, you live there, like you said, maybe he's got an apartment down in the basement or whatever,
Yeah.
in the house, in the same house.
Right.
And he wants to rent out a room or a couple of rooms upstairs, as long as there are not more than 5 unrelated people on the premises, then that would meet the definition of a single-family residence. But if they are,
It's a boarding situation.
if they're renting out their entire house, that's a vacation. If they're renting out the entire house, they're leaving, renting out their entire house, then that's a vacation rental, and by this motion, they would not be allowed to do that. Now, while I'm talking, I'm trying to think of what Mr. Bradley, the city attorney, would say. I would think he would become less comfortable, I really can't speak for him, but I think he would become less comfortable the more restrictive we get. In other words, he might think this is going a little bit too far, that certainly there's going to be some that would like to challenge that, some that do in fact just rent their home out 2 or 3 times a year. They leave and go on vacation, and so there's going to be some folks that might oppose this and might challenge. So obviously, there's a greater chance of challenge to something like this, but if Mr. Bradley, if this is your feeling, if this is the opinion, the majority opinion of this board, we can take it on to the board like this. If he comes back and says no, this won't work, I feel like we cannot withstand a challenge, then the board can refer it back to you and you can reconsider.
The reality of the situation is we are making a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and by default, the city attorney. The city attorney will advise the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and they will resolve accordingly. Correct?
Correct.
We're just stating our recommendation on the issue as it stands. We are not, in fact, rewriting the zoning ordinance. That's the other gang on Tuesday night. Mr. Millsaps, and then Mr. Bristol.
Question, Mr. Chairman. You know, I have great regard for the legal profession, and I understand, especially when you're doing work for municipalities and governmental agencies, sometimes things are not as clear as you'd like for them to be. You know, I've listened to this concern about people who want vacation by rentals. They want to rent out their house, and we've heard the stories of some of the experiences our fellow citizens have had. And we're concerned about being attacked legally because we make a decision that in certain zoned areas that are residential, have always been residential, and everyone, except maybe in recent times, who bought a house in there anticipated and trusted the city that those restrictions, zoning restrictions, would stay the same. Now, what I want to know, and I guess, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me to make this request of Mr. Rogers, I want to know what our city attorney's position is on defending the citizens who own the homes in the residential zones now. I'm not disputing that people, if they can get it through the court, and the court makes the forces a change, but where is somebody going to stand up in a legal process, not just on behalf of what it would I think clearly be a minority of the residents of the city of Hendersonville, but nevertheless, they're the ones that represent the vast majority of the complexion of our city and the history of our city. We don't have an entertainment city, event center in this city. There is no sign for one. I mean, even Shelbyville can argue during the spring celebration and the grand celebration in the fall. Matter of fact, just finished last night. They've got all sorts of reasons. People are coming in and out of Shelbyville and Lewisburg, Murfreesboro. There are all sorts of folks, and people have pretty nice homes, and that's what they do. I just hate for us to get in a situation where we're trying, in one step, we're trying to not offend somebody, and on the other hand, by doing that, we basically are devaluing the rights of a citizen in this city to be heard and be respected for the investment of time and money, and in some cases, generational relationships. We don't turn around. I may be the only one, but I can't vote for that. I just can't do it, and that's not a criticism of Mr. Bradley or anyone else. It's just, it's kind of like the old saying, it's kind of like being between a rock and a hard place. And somebody, you know, I respect these people, but I also heard those neighbors that talking about going out on their deck late one night, and there would be an individual clearly consumed a considerable amount of liquid during the course of the evening, and he went out in the corner of her backyard and relieved himself. Those people need to have somebody say, we're concerned about that, too. So I'm gonna shut up.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bristol?
Dr. Bryant took the words right out of my mouth. No. But I guess the thing is, as we consider, the city of Hendersonville is filled with a lot of planned communities, HOAs, you know, things like that. But then again, you have your individual homeowners who have their individual plots of land or something like that, to where they don't have neighbors, they really don't have anybody to, you know, complain to about that. And I guess that would be my concern. You know, do we take that, you know, I don't say, you know, well, right away or what have you. Certainly Hendersonville is an attractive city or an attractive place to where people could enjoy themselves. I think it's more of a state of, you know, how do you police those things? No doubt, it's probably become an academic problem in the greater city of Nashville and the surrounding cities. And so, again, it's like, how do we place parameters around the situation to create an amicable situation? So.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor that is to recommend not allowing vacation rentals in residential properties, residential zones, excuse me. We have a second for that. All those in favor of that recommendation, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstention? One opposition? Brian McCormick? Mr. Bristol, are you opposing or abstaining? Opposed, too. Motion carries. That being the case, the rest of this discussion is over. You will, Mr. Rogers, be able, I hope, to craft up such recommendations and send it on to General Committee?
Correct.
Two members of which shout with glee as we speak. Yep. Going to have a full agenda for the next 2 months. Now we have the report on Hendersonville Horizons first. Is that correct, Mr. Rowe? Who's got this?
I'll introduce it, and then I'm going to ask Keith to give you an update on both of these items, the Hendersonville Horizons and the special census. You may recall a few months ago, you appointed Frank Pinson to be the Planning Commission representative on Hendersonville Horizons. And also, we've got double representation. Dr. Charles Lee was appointed as a board representative. And of course, Darrell Woodcock is the board representative. But, so anyhow, the Hendersonville Horizons Committee has kicked off, got a great committee. At the previous work session, I asked you to provide some input as far as what you think as a planning commission ought to be considered as the goals and objectives for the city. You've done that. I put that in writing, and Keith is going to pass that out. You had also asked, you may have forgotten by now, it's been so long, but you also asked that I provide you with a list of the goals from the previous two efforts, the Hendersonville Tomorrow effort and the Vision 2000 effort. Keith is also going to pass those out. And with that, I would like Keith to give us an update on the progress thus far for Hendersonville Horizons.
Yeah, I'll give a very quick update on the Hendersonville Horizons. The documents you have before you are the previous efforts that are similar to the Hendersonville Tomorrow and the previous effort, vision effort before that. We've got a steering committee that's been appointed by BOMA, and they have been actively meeting and have subcommittees and been working very diligently. We're hopeful within the next month to have a timeline for how the effort's going to unfold, but it's going to involve a lot of things. We're going to be really reaching out deep into the community to get the opinion on different topics from people in the community. We're going to involve a lot of people, and we're going to involve our local high schools, and we're going to have a really extensive effort to make sure we get a good response. And then the steering committee is going to use that information and then hone down on some visioning process and go through some different things. And we're hopeful by sometime around next spring, it's probably about the end time frame when they'll have everything finished up and ready to make a final report out. So that's kind of a quick overview of that process. We've got a really good steering committee, and people are really engaged, working hard on it.
Dr. Lee, would you like to explain a little further your particular subcommittee? Got some great ideas, and looks like the last time, to be honest with you, we just had difficulty getting participation from the public. We sent out a survey, had very limited response, and as a result, it just seemed that the effort never got legs. So, but this time, with Dr. Lee and the other committee members, they come up with some excellent ways to get a substantially greater involvement from the public. So, Dr. Lee?
Yeah, we're very pleased that the Sumner County Schools has agreed to work with us. And in fact, the marketing departments and DECA clubs of the high schools in Hendersonville will be working to develop a website, a Facebook page, and the survey instrument to be developed electronically. Eric Jackson with Keystone Solutions is also going to be assisting in that effort. The coordinator of all the local PTOs within the local school system has also pledged her support to inform all of the Hendersonville area PTOs of the work of Hendersonville Horizons, and to get as much participation as we can in this process. But we're very excited and very pleased with the support that we have gotten. There have now been several meetings that have occurred with local school officials, and we are moving ahead full steam.
Darrell, did you have anything you wanted to add? Darrell, again, is the Board of Mayor and Alderman representative on Hendersonville Horizons.
Yes, if I can have 30 seconds. Thank you. I'm helping with outreach, and one area that we're starting right away with is trying to get as much information from HOA groups. So if you're watching this on TV, or if you're a member of this board, if you have the president of your HOA's email address, please send it to me, dwoodcock@hvilletn.org. We're compiling a list so that when the survey is ready, we can make sure as many people knows about it as possible, utilizing as many technologies as possible. Thank you.
And Keith Free has been here now for 1 month. You may recall his first meeting was last month, so he's been here 1 month, doing a great job. The Hendersonville Horizons and the special census, that would be our department's top priority right now. So that is why I am continuing to take on the role of reviewing developments. Keith is involved in that review, but I felt like it was more important at this particular point in time for him to concentrate on Hendersonville Horizons and special census, but then we'll work him into development review as quickly as we can. So with that, I'd also like to ask Keith to explain the status of our top priority, and that is the special census.
Thank you, Fred. We're moving forward with our special census. The last census was a federal census in 2010. Prior to that, in 2006, the city of Hendersonville undertook a special census and showed quite a gain in population. We know we've had a significant gain in population since the 2010 census. Approximately for each resident that we have that's counted by the 2010 census, we receive about I think it's about $123 a person. And so we know we've had a significant gain through the permitting that's happened since 2010 to 2016. So we know there is a gain there. And so we want to be able to count that and get that count and get the state to recognize our new population count, and then get that money rolling back into the city for the 4 years until the next federal census comes out. So we're undertaking that process right now. We're building a database of all the residential direct addresses. So we're building that, and hopefully we'll have that done by next week. And we're preparing all of the different instruments for taking the census and the mail-outs. And we're looking at on target right now, probably near the end of October, to start that effort. And so we'll be getting the word out through a lot of different media outlets and social media. And everybody in Hendersonville will be receiving a direct mailer to fill that out. And then the people that don't get that information in, we'll send out one more. Then we'll start a door-to-door effort to count as many people as possible. All this will end by March the 1st, when we've got to finalize everything, and then we have a validation group that looks at all the information to validate to make sure that it's correct. But it's a pretty big undertaking, and it's going to be good. It's good certainly financially for the city to count, but it's good for us to know, at what rate we are growing. And it's going to be important as we look at the visioning process of Hendersonville Horizon, and to get some idea of what consistency of rate of growth that's been occurring.
Also generates revenue.
Yes.
Dr. Lee, are you still in the queue?
No, I'm sorry, Frank.
Mr. Ames?
First of all, I want to say, I think it's great that we have this new visioning movement going forward. I've been involved in the last two because I'm old. But there's one thing that I like, all the nifty stuff that you're doing in terms of going out into the schools and the electronics and everything. But there's one thing, if I can, I would like to suggest we do. And that is, let's not let the report be put on the shelf and gather dust, because for the most part the last two did. And I think one of the ways to do that is to engage our Board of Mayor and Aldermen to have an official position on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, so that there is a regular report as to the progress of what is going on with the visioning process, so that it can't be forgotten, it can't go away, can't die. And that if somebody does die or go away, that we have the ability to replace them and to keep the thing going, because we've come up with tremendous information in the past. I suspect you're going to do even better this time, but we need to keep that alive and well. If we don't measure it, it won't happen. I mean, I guess that's my bottom line on that.
The committee definitely agrees with you, and in fact, last week I asked the mayor to add a 6th committee report to be listed to every BOMA agenda. So hopefully, starting in, I guess, next week, you'll receive a bi-weekly report from the Hendersonville Horizons Committee. I feel the exact same way. I tried to get them to guarantee my win in the re-election so that I could continue to serve on the committee, because as a Capital Projects Committee Chairman, I wanted to make sure all the projects get done. Thank you.
Super.
Any further comments? Thank you for the reports. Mr. Millsaps, do you have a motion?
Chairman, I move we stand adjourned.
Mr. Jenkins? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.